Okay, welcome back to Australia's Changing Communities, the sequel, Part B. Let's get into it. So let's have a think and have a look at what we've already done so far. So far, for Part A, you've started to fill out this section here. You've done your line, you've put your locations in, you've filled out this table, you've filled out your community profiles for Menai and for one of the other locations that's somewhere on your line. So then for Part B, what we're going to be doing is the population pyramids, the sector graphs, and these two descriptions. This description will be looking at I think it is, the community profile. So you're going to be looking at this, and your Menai description is going to be looking at your population pyramid. So you're going to be describing, looking at the characteristics of both of those. So as I said, what we've got to do is we've got to locate the urban places on our map. We've got a complete source D and G, sources E and H, and then the 250 word descriptions. Alright, so locating the urban places. Look, it's going to be fairly similar to sort of what you did in the first task. You can see here I've filled that out in Part A. I've got Menai, Busselton, Darwin, Augusta, Perth and Tharara. As I said, I chose 5 locations that were very different. So Perth being a major capital city, Darwin also a capital city but a much smaller one, and then Bunbury, Augusta, 2 regional centres in WA, and then this small community, very small Indigenous community up in the Northern Territory. I think you'll find, I think it'd be a good aim for you to choose 5 centres that are quite different. Alright, the population pyramids. This is probably the skill that's going to be the most challenging on this task. Really, we've got to ask ourselves, well, what is a population pyramid? It's 2 horizontal bar graphs where you are really comparing the males versus females. This is the Menai data, and you can see here we've got in Menai a population of about 10,000, and unsurprisingly, it's a fairly even split. Males 5,100, females 5,400, and the number here that's really important is 48.7% and 51.3%. You're going to need that when we drill down and look at the overall profile and these different groups here. And the word that we use here for these groups is cohorts. So it's the 0 to 4 cohort, the 5 to 9 cohort, and so on. Alright, so as I said, what we need to do is we look at the total population, work out the males and the females, and we need to know the percentage. I actually have gone into a little bit more depth there, and I've created this percentage here for males as 48.67%, and the females at 51.32%. And we're going to need that to split the cohorts into their male and female components so we can graph them. So what I do is I've drawn up a small little table. I've just done it for 0 to 4 down to 20 to 24 to start with. I'll do it for the whole thing, but just so you can see. What I do is I write down the population here. So the population there was 731. It represented 6.9%. And what I need to work out is I need to work out of that 6.9%, what is the percentage that is male? And I need to use this percentage here. So if you have a look down here, 6.9% is this cohort, 48.6 is the percentage of males, and then I times it by 48.6, divide it by 100 to give me a male percentage for 0 to 4. And what it ends up working out is here is 3.35%. And that gives me something I can graph. What I can then do as well is I can then take 6.9% and minus 3.35, and that will give me the female percent. Once I've got all my percentages for all my cohorts, I then graph it. Males, females. I'd like to see you put in along the sides here the percentages for both your males and your females, and then you can see here what you've got to do is along the bottom it goes up in increments of 2. what I've done is I've just drawn in, and you might be able to see it here, where the 1, the 3 and the 5% mark are, because they are going to be important. The other thing you could do, if you didn't draw the percentages in here, you can also draw them in here. But when you shade the graph, it can get a little bit confusing, so I prefer it on the outside. So what I do is 3.35, 3.6, 4.14, 4.47, 3.14, they're all the different values. I graph the females, and you can see what's going to happen. Ultimately, you'll end up with a completed population pyramid that should look something like this for Menai. You'll do exactly the same thing and for your other location as well. Okay, then brings us to the next section, creating the pie or sector graph. The first thing you've got to do is find the middle. An easy way to do this is just by using a compass. You estimate where you think the middle is, and then see if you can redraw the circle. Once you get to a point where you are able to redraw the circle, and you can see here where the pencil is on the line here, and it's also here, the radius here and the radius here is the same, and so therefore I found the centre of the circle. What you do then is then just draw in the line. You should always draw the line here at 0. You should always draw the line at 0 degrees. In the table, for this one here, I've graphed country of birth. I've named the factor down here, so the different countries that I've got from the profile. I've graphed the value, and the other thing that you then need to do, the hardest thing, is then determining what is the degrees. Here is the different percentages. What I do with those percentages is I then need to work out how many degrees they are. So, for example, the Australia down here at 77.7, I divide it by 100 and then times it by 360. This gives me how many degrees it is to be graphed onto my broadsheet, onto the source. So what you should end up doing is first using a protractor, graphing, plotting where that is, and it's going to be somewhere about there. You then shift the protractor up to graph the next sections, and then colour, shade, according to your legend or your key. Once you've graphed and shaded, the other thing that I like to do is just to label to the side the different sectors of the graph. I think it makes it really clear, and I think it just gives it that extra bit of presentation. Okay, so that brings us to the end of that section. I'm going to put up something else on on the description of the community profiles. The other thing that I thought I'd leave you with is just a tip on how I generally set out this sort of work. You can see this is the workspace, so when I'm setting out these videos, I do the whole assessment along with you guys, and I like to have it set out on a big large bench. That way I can stretch out and usually put the transect out here. I can have my other work here. I use my phone for the calculator, but I can really utilise the space. I've always found if I'm working on my desk at school, it's just not big enough. It gets cluttered, I lose things. So it'd be my suggestion that you have a nice big workspace that you can work on, where you can really stretch it out and have have all the different information for you here. I have it up here and here. Okay, I hope that's been helpful for you. Stay tuned for the next topic, for the next video. All right, bye.